Gen Z workers have only been in the workforce for a relatively short amount of time compared to their millennial, Gen X, and baby boomer counterparts. But many are already noticing what is expected of them and are already starting to restructure some traditional unspoken work rules. It might sound bizarre to people who think workplace etiquette just is what it is. But there are unspoken job rules that some Gen Z workers now refuse to follow because they are dated, inappropriate, or just out of touch. Researchers say that workplace etiquette is important because it establishes respect among coworkers. That being said, respect should be mutual, so the rules at work should work for everybody. From refusing to work late hours into the night to insisting there's no reason to go into the office when the work can much more easily and efficiently get done from home. Gen Z is shaking up what it means to have work-life balance and advocate for yourself in your career. Here are 12 unspoken job rules Gen Z workers refuse to follow. Accepting low pay even though they have years of experience. Many companies don't want to cough up the necessary dough to pay their employees fair wages. Instead, they'd rather skate around the issue when Gen Z brings it to their attention. In their eyes, they don't see a need to pay Gen Z workers a higher wage, as most of Gen Z is desperate for a job anyway. However, this type of behavior is bound to bite them back, as a survey from Resume Lab found that 70% of Gen Z say that salary is a crucial element in determining if they are going to stay with an employer or not. Combined with their boss's dismissive attitude, employers should not be surprised if employees decide to walk away and find a better opportunity. Loyalty to one company. This kind of goes hand in hand with the last point, but regardless of the issues they might have encountered, most employees were taught early on that their loyalty would be very heavily rewarded if they chose to stick around. Gen Z has quickly learned that loyalty can only get them so far. Unfortunately, many employers remain stagnant with their pay after a while. Feeling cheated, most of Gen Z won't hesitate to cut ties with the company if it means increasing their pay. A survey from Pew Research Center found that between April 2021 and March 2022, workers who switched jobs saw a 60% increase in their salary. So as cold as it may sound, Gen Z understands that looking out for themselves can pay off, keeping their personal life separate from their work life. Employees have been taught that being silent about their personal life was the best route to take in the workforce. This kind of expectation can turn workers into machines with no obligations outside of their careers. Never discussing your personal life can directly impact your work life for the worse. For instance, if your employer doesn't understand why you need to show up 10 minutes late for the next few weeks, they will assume that you're just being lazy and they will likely fire you. This is why Gen Z chooses to be clear about where things are in their personal life. Though it might be tough, Gen Z will always choose to open up, allowing their bosses to understand where their needs need to be met. Putting in long hours. Back in the day, it wasn't uncommon for bosses to expect their new workers to put in unpaid overtime. These employers cornered their employees and did not allow for a proper work-life balance. In their eyes, the company's profit mattered more to them than their employees' mental well-being, leading to extreme burnout. Unfortunately, this did not work out well for employers, as research found that high levels of burnout are associated with productivity loss due to absence and declines in performance. This impacts the company's profits if they aren't careful. So though it might be slightly inconvenient, employers might want to let their employees leave on time if they want to keep making profit, ignoring their mental health needs. Both employers and employees must take their mental health seriously if they want to see their company succeed. Studies show that mental health plays an important role in improving job performance. Working employees to the bone simply does not make much sense. It not only fosters a negative work environment, but it creates resentment and leads to low retention rates. This then leads to losing profits on training new people. So instead, companies should start taking their employees' mental health more seriously. And if you don't think that's important, just listen to this. The American Psychological Association warns us that companies that don't take their employees' mental health seriously are likely to see a drop in recruitment rates as their reputation as a company among potential employees decreases. Staying silent. Gen Z is known to have outside-of-the-box thoughts, and trying to explain them to an older crowd may feel a bit bizarre. Instead, they are encouraged to just stay silent. Despite these initial fears, Gen Z just chooses to voice their opinions out loud anyway. Because Gen Z was taught at an early age that their voices do matter. and many of them are taking up the mantle and being unapologetic about their opinions. In some instances, this can be great, as combined ideas make way for greater profit. On the flip side, Gen Z's brutal honesty might leave some employers feeling a bit perplexed and a little bit offended. However, if companies allow for that level of open discussion, what they'll find is that Gen Zers are actually very dedicated to their work, doing their best to contribute and keep the company afloat, abiding by a strict dress code. Gen Zers love to dress up and look fashionable, but let's face it, wearing a suit and tie every single day can be a bit much. And in some instances, it just doesn't make much sense in the work environment. For example, if an office is cold, wearing a dress wouldn't really feel comfortable. On the flip side, if an office gets hotter, wearing a suit and tie can lead employees to lose concentration and grow a lot more frustrated. And there's more to the conversation than just discomfort, as diversity should also be considered. Gen Z is the most diverse generation. As a result, there are additional clothing styles that some religions or ethnicities choose to wear on a day-to-day basis. Knowing this, it makes sense why Gen Z refuses to follow some of the strict dress codes that these companies require. Not only does it not make sense, but it might be a bit of a dilemma for people who come from different backgrounds. Communicating after hours. Though it might sound cold, Gen Z does not want to be on call all day, every day. Though Gen Z likely doesn't have kids, they have friends, family members, and partners who depend on them to show up after work. Because of this, Gen Z prefers to cut off all contact after hours and respond to those 3 a.m. emails when they show up to work. Employers might get upset about this selfish behavior, but it works out in their favor in the end. Research shows that a good work-life balance promotes productivity because happy employees are more self-motivated, staying in roles that are unfulfilling. Most people are just taught that they have to work hard even if their job makes them feel totally miserable. This is why people will stick with companies for 40 plus years without batting an eye. In their eyes, they feel like they don't have much of a choice. However, Gen Z is slowly starting to change all that. Nowadays, Gen Z has zero issues with leaving a job if they feel like their needs are not being met. According to ADP research, between the ages 18 to 26, 46% of people said they would rather be unemployed than unhappy. Compare those to 28% of those aged 40 to 58, and the difference is clear. Showing up at the office every day. It might be bittersweet for the older generation, but the newer generation hates going to the office when it's not necessary. You really can't blame them considering how much they save on gas and time. Also, not having to wake up super early, Gen Z can do their work feeling well rested and at ease. Also, since they don't have to deal with the infamous controlling boss, they'll feel more confident when they turn in their assignments on time. All of these things combined add to their overall well-being and contributes to a much better work-life balance. Studies have shown that companies who offered remote work have seen a revenue growth of 21% compared to a 5% revenue growth in in-office work. This is why companies should encourage hybrid work or try remote work for a year. They might find that this saves them additional costs and boosts productivity, which is always a plus. Enduring disrespect. Unlike previous generations, this generation has zero issues with telling people off and quitting on the spot. In their company's eyes, this might seem like an overreaction. Why rage quit just because of a little comment, right? However, it's important to understand that people spend a good portion of their lives working. This is why respect and decency is extremely important in the workforce. After all, nobody wants to clock in dreading the day ahead. It might sound like a radical idea, but everybody wants to be treated with respect at the end of the day. Working a rigid 9-to-5 schedule. A recent survey of over 1,000 Gen Zers showed that half of them reported either currently doing freelance work or planning to do freelance work in the future. Gen Z likes to do things on their own terms. As a result, it's unsurprising to see that Gen Z workers are refusing to clock in at 9 and stay all the way until 5. In Gen Z's eyes, they would be wasting their day away while they could spend that time on their passions or in their relationships. Though this may not sit well with traditional companies, it could be a sign that offering flexibility to their employees could be the best course of action. Not only does it better cater to their needs, but it helps boost happiness in the workplace, leading to overall better productivity for the company. It's not that Gen Z doesn't want to work. They just don't want to work the way you think they should.